question?
Hey, Caetano.
Oi.
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 Should I?
Oops.
Oh, go ahead. Should I ask it in English? Yeah.
I don't know.
So in the same line of what you were talking about, it's very hard to introduce you as a popular musician here in the U.S. because it's very hard to pick just one song that could like introduce you as a singer. It's easier to introduce art, or it's even easier to introduce like Hermeto Pascal because they're just their music. But and that's a great thing. But you come with this theoretical approach that is very hard to explain to someone when you want to introduce you as a singer. Do you think there's any of your songs that could be the first one that I could show an American to tell them who you are?
Me ajude.
Ele é brasileiro. Ele é brasileiro. Ele está falando que é muito complicado. Eu tenho uma canção que poderia ser essa lançada.
Baby.
Baby. É que é a Betânia, não? Que é da Betânia, não?
É minha, mas podia ser da Betânia. Porque ela deu as ideias todas. Nós somos todos brasileiros e não vamos ficar fingindo que a gente fala inglês. Does anybody here don't speak Portuguese?
You have some
Does anybody don't? I don't
You have a
speak
minority
English.
of Americans.
I'm proving that I don't speak English. Does anybody here don't speak Portuguese? This is not correct. It's crazy. It's like I can't speak English.
Yes. Back to Tarsila, if you allow me, Caetano, speaking of things back in our minds, right? I remember listening that there was a big backlash or a rabid reaction to the Modern Art Week, and then Tarsila as the face of the picture of that week. She suffered personally on that, and that was one of the reasons that led her to withdraw. Is it true? I mean, I'd like to know if in your readings or you're talking to people that if that was a big reason for her to actually withdraw in her career later.
Você ajuda, não. Ele está falando que ele tem lido que a Semana da Arte Moderna produz uma reação rabiosíssima e que a Tarsila pagou um pouco esse efeito. Ele está perguntando se é verdade que ela se retirou ao final da carreira dela por essa razão. Claro que não.
No, Tarsila, in the 1922 week, she was not in Brazil.
Yeah.
She was in Paris. She didn't show there or anything. And the strongest reaction against modernism in Brazil happened earlier, and it was with another female painter, Anita Malfatti, and she got an incredible reaction. It was before the 20s. It was
1917.
1917. Anita Malfatti exposed the first modernist work of visual art, of painting, in 1917 in São Paulo, and there was a strong reaction. And there is a funny story that I was always thinking about before coming here, and it has to do with reaction to modernism and lots of other things, because a writer who was not a modernist exactly, but he was a good writer, and he was a friend of Oswald's. In that garçonnière in which Miss Cyclone appeared, he was with Oswald. He shared it with Oswald. His name was Monteiro Lobato. He was a very respected. He still is very respected writer in Brazil because of the books he wrote for children. Very well written and very interesting and everything. It's a great name in Brazil. But when Anita Malfatti showed her painting, he reacted furiously, like saying, this is rubbish, modern artists, you know, he disrespected it all. He said that, you know, that story of the tale of an ass could have painted those things like by chance. If you just put paint in the tail of a mule, you know, you can have things like that. And it was very strong. And she was one who backed, not just after that, after 22, because she exposed in 22, she went back in her experimental fire. But it must have things to do with her life and everything, not only with what Monteiro Lobato wrote, but Monteiro Lobato he wrote a novel in 1926 that was called O Presidente Negro, the Black President. And it was about the United States. He foretells in that novel that, written in 1926, that in the United States, in the year 2000 something, in fact 2228, you know, Americans who would elect a black man as president. And that mostly because whites were divided because of the feminine movement. Some kind of feminism, united women against men. So the white candidate lost, you know, they divided the votes between a man and a woman. So a black man who was the leader of all black men in the United States, who would be in 2000 something a bigger share of the population, you know, than it was in 1926, and even now, there were more blacks, not more blacks than white, but more blacks than relatively than before. And it's a crazy book because it's like science fiction, because the story is told by a guy who lives in Rio and in 1926, and he sees a man whose daughter is beautiful, and this man is an old man who is a scientist who has this hidden project, and he enters in contact with it. And they have an apparel and things and machines and things that could see the future and could slice parts of the future to study, to go in and see and know everything. So the girl chose that part of the story of the United States in the future in which a black president was. The book is totally racist, like basically following the eugenics of that period in the most, for him, for the narrator, the superiority of the white man was indisputable, and it's a very terrible thing because he tells that because of the fight between men and women that didn't happen among blacks, all blacks voted for that black candidate, and because the black candidate was a leader of the blacks were like too passive. They only heard that voice. They were not, because they were not racially capable of developing a higher, more complex intellect. So they followed this guy. and but he's elected. And the president, the white one, was the president who wanted to be re-elected. And he lost. And then they face each other. And it's an entirely incredible thing because he foretold, in fact, Monteiro Lobato foretold a few things that, amaze us. Because he said that by then, journalists wouldn't be writing articles that would be put in a print to be printed and everything. They would write, and immediately in every home you could read what he wrote, because everybody had in their houses those screens, luminous screens in which they could read. And when the story goes more complicated, like the white president wanted to know what's going on between the election of the black man and the inauguration, he was following, tells the narrator, what is happening by his pocket receiver. It's incredible. It's really incredible. And he was advocating for the author, for the eugenics. And in the end, the white president put together all the sage men. They were 12 or something, and they got together, each one. And the art sage found the solution, the final solution, really. Because whites wanted to look, blacks wanted to look like white people. And they had already been able to become less and less dark, lighter and lighter. But their hairs were still like kinky, and they never could overcome that thing. But this guy, the art guy, had discovered a thing that could make black people's hair look straight and become straight, And that was, and he released it between the election and the inauguration. It was a huge success because all blacks wanted to have their hairs straight, and they become almost like white people because they were already light and now had straight hair. And in fact, that thing that made hair straight also made them infertile. And so the problem is over. The thing is, the guy, the Brazilian writer who in 1926, was foreseeing through American eugenics, because, following these eugenics experiments that were being made in America and that influenced Hitler. He was foreseeing Hitler twice because he was foreseeing the superiority of the white man and a final solution of eradicating other races, and he reacted against modern art.
Yeah, poor Anita Malfatti was traumatized by Monteiro Lobato. I think any other question? Yes. Micro? There's a microphone. There is one there.
Thank you. Hi. Okay. Does it work? Okay. Just a little reflection. I'm Brazilian too. I'm from the northeast of Brazil. And I've always been passionate by the Week of 22 and the modernism in Brazil. And it was such a fresh moment of looking inward, to our culture, to our diversity, and really feeling like it was, of course, it was an intellectual elite who did that. And we were very fascinated by the European art and all the influences. And it's the first time that there is this certain awareness that, we can create our own art based on our own realities, our own culture. Of course, eating what we receive from others and transform it into a new thing. And I was just thinking if, Brazil is such a complex country. If today, what do you think about art today, about music and art in Brazil and all the other artistic manifestations? If we're now really understanding a little better what we really are and expressing it a little better. Maybe we even...
I hope.
I hope so.
We are seeing very hard things and living very hard things, difficult times. And of course, I would end this saying, Marielle, presente.
Thank you, Caetano. Thank you very much.